Every game, we rise and unite, fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. Our legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we draw. Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is the morning after what is another Detroit Lions victory Sunday. We'll be bringing in Eric here in just a moment. He's going to be joining us live from a couch somewhere in Detroit. We don't know yet. We'll find out when we bring him in. But I wanted to touch base on one very important stat before we bring in Eric. The most important stat, in my opinion. The Detroit Lions are undefeated since we started the theme song. I'm just saying there's something to it. We're undefeated since we started the theme song. So it's going to stay. We're going to keep it. I hope you enjoy it. I think it's kind of catchy, honestly. But it's a good way to get your day kicked off, man. Talking about the Lions every single day, and especially after we win. Big win. Epic win. It doesn't get any bigger than that. And according to Governor Christie, still calling Dan Campbell classless. Catch Dan outside, please. He's having fun. He just hung 52 on the Titans. And you know what? It could have been 80. It could have been 70. Definitely could have been 60. The Lions actually pulled back towards the end of this game. If they wanted to leave some of the star players in, they easily could have put up 60 plus on the Titans. And by the way, nice win for the Lions. This is the first time they have beat the Lions, or beat the Titans since when? What was it? 1995? This is our first victory since 95 over the Titans? Can't be that long. I think that's a stat that I heard. But we'll double check that. We'll bring Eric here in just a moment, get it rolling. Good morning to everybody in the chat. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Eric.
Hey, what's going on?
We got audio. Where you at, man? What's happening?
I am at my cousin's house in Detroit. Not just some random couch.
Eric woke up on the side of the road somewhere after that crazy win last night. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God!
How's the arm feeling today? Looks great.
It's getting a lot better. I can't believe how good it is healed for a week out from surgery. Because I had my surgery 1 week ago today, and hoping to get this stupid sling off on Thursday. I hate my arm being in a sling. I just can't.
It had to be tough not to throw your arms up and, jump around in the stadium. You probably caught yourself a couple times.
No, that was the easy part. The hard part was having somebody not go.
Oh, yeah.
And hit my shoulder, because that happened twice. Somebody was like, behind me just slapping my shoulder. I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah, that's especially if it was a Titans fan. I probably would have been doing it intentionally, right?
Oh no, I had Sonic and Knuckles right behind me in their Halloween costumes. There were so many Sonic and Knuckles people there yesterday.
That's awesome.
Sonic and Knuckles, it was great.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't have PFF this morning because PFF is slow. Apparently, we normally cover that stuff on Tuesdays anyway. So today, let's get through a few topics. Like I said, Lions are undefeated ever since we started this theme song. That's topic number one. Topic number two, let's get into some headlines from around the league and around the Lions. Let's see what the local sports writers are talking about with the Detroit Lions. So I'm going to dip into that right now. We're going to pull them off the cuff this morning. The first one I see, well, Doc McArew in Sports Illustrated grades. Lions dismantle the Titans 1 hour ago. Oh, I'm sorry. This is by Christian Boer. So talking about how the Detroit Lions disposed of the Tennessee Titans for their 5th consecutive win. And after some fireworks early, the Lions settled down and dominated in all 3 phases of the game. Yeah, I wouldn't say we dominated in all 3 phases, but we did pretty well. I think special teams dominated. Jared Goff definitely got off to a slow start, but they're giving him a quarterback rating of an A for the day. I would definitely agree there. I mean, Jared Goff's been playing out of his mind for the last several weeks at least, but 5 weeks of note here. Running back, you've got to give them an A++++. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than what those two guys are doing right now. I think we are so blessed to have such two dynamic and different styles of running backs. It really mixes things up in the backfield. It is tough to plan for one and get the other, every other possession that the Lions are getting. They're using one or the other. And it seems like Ben Johnson has been rolling with that a little bit more often lately, where they're sticking to Jahmyr for one possession. They're sticking to Montgomery for one possession. Very few and far between do I see them both getting in on the same possession. Not as often as it used to be. It seems like they're dedicated to more, this possession is going to be this style of run, this style of play, this style of passing, this limiting the pass pro or whatever they have to do to make it work. Tight ends, they gave them an A. Offensive line, a B-. I would agree there. There were some things on the offensive line yesterday. Taylor Decker. I'm not sure what's going on with Taylor Decker, but we'll talk about him for a little bit this morning as well. Eric, what was your first glance? What was your first glance like? The first play of the game, Goff's getting thrown to the ground.
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell Taylor Decker was doing. It absolutely blew my mind. That's 2 weeks in a row where Taylor is just letting someone run right around him.
Yeah. Hey, guys, one second. Guys in the chat, can you let me know if you can hear Eric? I thought he sounded good, but he sounded a little bit light. I just turned him up a little bit. Let me know if you guys can hear Eric okay. So go ahead. You're talking about Taylor Decker. He looked, you didn't know what was going on. I don't think anybody knew what was going on. It looked like his feet were stuck in the mud. Yeah,
he looked lost. And, I mean, he kind of got his composure together later in the game, but I'm pretty sure Goff got hurt on that very first play of the game. He was limping around the whole rest of the game.
Yeah.
We can't have that. We have the best offensive line in the NFL. They need to play like it, and especially Taylor Decker. He just got this contract. He can't be letting people just run around him on the very first play of the game. And it seemed like it was kind of a similar thing to last week when he did the same thing. He let up a sack last week.
Yeah, he was definitely, I'm trying to figure out how to turn you up a little bit more. Let me see here we go. I think that should help. He was definitely uncomfortable. Arden Key. So I haven't spoken about Arden Key yet, and I will today. I did a video last night about Arden Key. I totally forgot about Arden Key. I don't know how or why I forgot about Arden Key, but he's definitely somebody that should be on the radar for Brad Holmes, because I mean, he's what, I think he's 28. His contract's not terrible, and the guy can play. And, for somebody that's on a team right now that is not doing well, right? The Titans are in deep trouble. This is an opportunity, again, for Brad Holmes to go and find, the right type of players. And if you can do what you just did to Taylor Decker, who's been one of the better left tackles in this league, I like those odds. For me, if I were a GM, and I'm not going to go deep into defensive end talk just yet. We can save that for at the end of the show. If I were a GM, I want to look at who beats my players, who beats the number one offensive line from time to time, who has had a good game against us, not just around the league, but against my guys, because I trust I know my guys, that's how I would evaluate it. And the more, I guess more often than not, if your guys are getting beaten and that they don't get beaten by many, I think that's a pretty good indicator that, it's a good player that you should probably talk to. Just saying. So, any thoughts on Arden Key?
Yeah, I would not mind the Lions taking a hard look at this kid. He was originally drafted by the Raiders, if I remember correctly.
It's been so long. Yeah, he might have been. I can't remember what I said last night.
Pretty sure he was a John Gruden pick from one of John Gruden's first drafts with the Raiders there. And
yeah, you got it.
Yeah, he was one of those kids that had all the talent in the world and just never put it together, and then got sent off to no man's land with the Titans, and what an opportunity he would have coming into a great situation with Detroit, where it's basically tailor-made for someone like him to come in and compete at a very high level and actually have the ability to have some success because of the people around him.
Well, yeah, and when you talk about an opportunity, he is 6'5". He's a little bit on the light side, so he looks lean, but man, or he looks lean on paper, but when you look at him physically, does not look lean. He's an imposing. He's imposing as a human, man. I mean, he looks big. But 6'5", he's got the arm length, 33.5 inch. You know, I love the arm length, 10-inch hands. So he's got the big mitts to bat those balls down. He is a former LSU product. We know what it's like to have good LSU products on the team. I'm not sure what number he wore in college, but round 3 pick 23 overall, 2018 draft, Oakland Raiders. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you know, being a former Gruden pick, Gruden had some issues. I love the work that Gruden's doing right now. Absolutely love the work he's doing right now. The dude's fired up in the work that he's doing on YouTube. I love it. But he's had his issues, and maybe he just, wasn't able to get the best out of Arden Key back then. But the guy has incredible athletic talent, and I would love to see an opportunity for him to end up in Detroit. And maybe after last night, maybe the wheels will get spinning today. It's not going to be long before the Lions have to do something, especially with the Rodrigo injury. But let's get to the second headline of the day. Second headline of the day would be, let's go to, oh God, Detroit Lions fans named the most foul-mouthed in the NFL. Is this not the second or third time I've seen this year? Where do they come up with this crap?
I don't know.
They're calling us the most foul-mouthed fan base. I highly doubt it. Have you ever been to Philly?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a Philly game? It's pretty bad.
I would ask that writer to go to any NFL stadium and sit in any section. You're going to hear swearing no matter where you go.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that when we've been beaten and prodded and kicked and pushed over by the refs in the NFL for so long. I mean, yeah, the F-bombs and the BSs and, the boo birds and everything else underneath the sun comes out more often than not. Nowadays, you're hearing a lot more clapping and cheering and, a whole lot of good stuff going on. So yeah, David Keach, try again, buddy. Just because we kick the crap out of your team doesn't mean you got to write these hit pieces. Last headline of the morning for the Detroit Lions is power rankings. Sporting News, Mike Moratis talking about power rankings. The Detroit Lions kept rolling right along in what has been an impressive season thus far after they annihilated the Tennessee Titans in Week 8 by a score of 52-14. The Lions are now off to a 6-1 start in it's the best franchise's mark, or best start in franchise's history through 7 games since the Eisenhower administration, 1956. Detroit also sports the second best record in the NFL behind the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. I still can't believe the Chiefs are undefeated.
They won again yesterday, huh?
Yeah. Detroit's win on Sunday was odd, to say the least, even though the Lions scored 52 points. Jared Goff didn't even throw for 85 yards, or not even 100 yards, threw for 85 yards. Titans shot themselves in the foot on several occasions, and the Lions capitalized each time to the win. What is going on here? The win produced some wild stats, all of which we will cover in this article, which I'm not going to go over. But power rankings, where do the Detroit Lions belong? Stephen A. had them as the number 1 team in the league last week. I can only imagine that he's going to keep the Lions right there above the Chiefs. Everybody in this article, besides Matt Johnson from Sportsnaut, rated the Lions as the number 2 team, no change. So Jeremy Clough, Taylor Worth, Vinny Iyer, Peter Dewey from Sports Illustrated, Arizona Republic, Sporting News, NBC Sports, all have the Lions as the number 2 team. I understand that you have a world champion team, world championship team in the Kansas City Chiefs that is still undefeated. Sure, they should probably be ranked the number 1 team overall, but I don't think that you can doubt what the Lions are doing right now. On their backs, fighting an uphill battle with a limited defense, players that were losing consistently. We lost another one yesterday at the very beginning of the game, and we're still whooping on teams, breaking all sorts of franchise and NFL records 5 weeks straight. I don't see the Kansas City Chiefs doing that at all. Matter of fact, they've been struggling quite a bit on their offensive side of the ball. So I got the Lions as number one. I mean, and that's not even bias. You cannot displace or replace what the Lions are doing defensively to capitalize on their losses defensively. You can't replace that. What Aaron Glenn is doing, what he did yesterday, again, we got off slow, but man, does he have this team ready. He got over Curb early because Curb was way out of place, let up an easy touchdown. And then Curb turns around and gets him an interception. Saves the day. Saves the relationship for the day. Because after that, Aaron Glenn was good with him. But they expect 0 points on the board, Eric. Do you get that? Do you get that feeling?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was kind of frustrating in the beginning of the game. Our defense, I don't know, they came out kind of flat, if that makes sense. I don't think they were expecting Mason Rudolph to tear him up with Calvin Ridley and let Calvin Ridley go off for over 100 yards in the first quarter. I don't think they were expecting that. And they tightened it up after the first quarter. Everything was fine after that because we didn't allow a second half point at all. When's the last time you can say that the Detroit Lions did not allow a single point in the second half? It's been a while.
Well, talking about second half real quick. You just look at the box score. I think we just had our best third quarter of the entire season.
Yep. 17
points in the third quarter. We didn't even need to score in the fourth quarter, but we scored 14 and then 21 and then 17. And then, we put Hendon Hooker in and just tried to get out of the game unscathed. So this could have been a 70 burger. We could have broken all sorts of records. We only needed 3 points to tie our most points scored in a single game. Would have been nice to see them trot Jake Bates out there for a couple of opportunities, but I don't think we really got into a position to do it. Speaking of Jake Bates, let's talk about Jake Bates for a moment. What do you got? What do you got for some Jake Bates news?
Well, Jake Bates now on the season is 11 for 11. So that is the first time that a Lions rookie kicker has went 100%, 11 for 11 for their first 11 kicks of a season. It's never happened in Lions history, and the kid is just money. Yes, he missed one extra point early on in the season, but who knows? That could have been something with the snap. It could have been something with laces in or laces out. That could have been something with the hold. Maybe his foot slipped. You just don't know. But he is totally recovered from the one miss on a extra point, and the kid is automatic. He is money, and I am so glad that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were smart enough to offer this kid a 2-year contract and more money than the Packers or anyone else was willing to give this kid. Because imagine if the Packers had Jake Bates right now.
Yeah, kicker, they can save the game for you, absolutely. But I don't know that he'd be happy. And you know what? To be honest with you, having to kick in Lambeau, much different.
Yes.
That requires a much different set of legs and probably a few extra pounds to deal with all the cold. But yeah, he could be a totally different story kicking in a colder climate like that. He's a dome guy for sure. I think that our schedule lined up real nice for Jake Bates. But to echo your sentiment, Jake Bates definitely slept at a Holiday Inn the last 5 weeks of this NFL season. He's off to a great start, staying perfect on field goals, 11 for 11, like Eric said. Hit a 53-yarder last night. And dare I say this, man, does he look more comfortable from 50 and beyond? He drilled that kick last night. Like, it was probably good from 60. at least, but he drilled. I mean, it was in the upper, what, 3/4 of the uprights when it went through. It was a beautiful kick. And as soon as I said that, you know, during the live game stream, I think it was Lomas Brown that said the same thing. He's like, man, he drilled that kick. And yeah, he looks great, man. Jake Bates looking good. Such a humble dude. Respect the hell out of him. Glad he's a Detroit Lion.
Yeah, I was sitting in the end zone, and that kick, when it came right at me, it looked like it was at the top of the goal post from where I was sitting.
I'm so enamored with the way that Brad Holmes has put this team together. Like, this is each and every day that you wake up and talk about the Lions, it kind of, you got to pinch yourself. Like, is this legit? Like, are we really here? Finally, yeah. It took this long for us to get here. And man, you just don't want to let it go. And I think that's why a lot of Lions fans are a little bit worried. You know, they're worried about the defense. They're worried about the edge rushing, situation. And I completely understand it. You know, I'm right there with you. I do believe that the Lions need to do something. I think the biggest argument that we've had, between fans and pundits and analysts and, whomever that's talking about the Lions in this edge rusher position or linebacker position is who and how much, because the Lions just don't and haven't spent big bank like that. So we'll see where it gets. But next, I want to talk about Taylor Decker. I said that we would come back in and talk about him. We don't have PFF grades to match up to him this morning, and I'm sure it's probably not the best. And shout out to Trace for doing a great job. By the way, Trace won the 6,000th subscriber helmet, and then we broke 6,500 last night. So 1,000 subscribers in like a week. We broke. So you guys did a great job getting us there. And so we've got another helmet that we have to give away this week. Could be this morning. So pay attention if you're in here. But also, 50 likes gets the ads off every day that you're in the live show. You remember that we started this thing where I was not going to play ads for people as long as you help us kind of get our content out to more. And it's working, right? You're getting the content out by pushing the like button. We're gaining more subscribers. We're gaining more of a footprint. And people love to hear, some of the stuff that we have to say most of the time. You see how I did that? Some of the stuff most of the time? Just kidding. We've got a great group of, community members here. I mean, this Lions fan community is absolutely the best. The chat is always fun. We don't have a ton of trolls. We get a few here or there. But we have a great group of moderators and members that all help manage this thing. So it's a great community to be a part of. If you haven't subscribed, smash it today, but definitely smash the like button. Let's get these ads off. What were you saying, Eric?
I just said Broski Bear.
Oh, Broski Bear. Yeah, good morning, Broski Bear. I know you're listening. You're just not going to enter the chat. But I guess before we talk about Taylor, how good does it feel that the Lions are not at the butt end of a Karen Rodgers last-minute Hail Mary, but the Bears are at the hands of a rookie quarterback? Then here's what I will say. Tip drill, right? We talk about tip drill. We're used to. It used to be a commonplace. You'd get these last-minute heroics. So tip drill was always prevalent, in any league, but especially the NFL. Everyone has their own position, right? You've got usually a big 6'4" guy. Sometimes it's a receiver. Sometimes they'll bring in the receiver hand group, right? You got your hands team. They're the ones that are just trying to bat the ball down. That's it. And then you got a guy behind and off to the side, depending on who you think they're going to target, right? Or you try to get everybody huddled up into one area. Well, those are your safety valves. So if those guys, can't bat a ball, the ball gets tipped up, they've got to get up and either bat the ball down or come down with an interception. But you never tip that ball up. That is the worst thing you can do. And the one thing that I'll say, last night they kind of showed it, in Sunday Night Football there is Tyreek Stevenson. He's over off on the sideline, kind of walking in to get huddled up or to get up on the line. He's just talking trash to the sideline, I guess.
Yeah, he was pointing at the.
Yeah, but he didn't get himself in position.
No.
And then it's his fault that they lost the game.
Yep, exactly.
If that happened on a Dan Campbell team, I could only imagine. Number one, what the leaders on that team would have said to him. But Aaron Glenn, oh God, I wouldn't want to be there for that. I mean, I would love to be there for it, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't want to be on the end of that stick. So yeah, it's nice to finally be on the other end of this, where it's not us, you know, that is facing, you know, the humiliation of the NFL for once. We're on the opposite end, total opposite end. You know, total beatdown versus epic collapse. Jayden Daniels, I told y'all, best quarterback to come out of this rookie class. Love what he's doing, man. Love what he's doing. Kid's playing great.
Ribs and all. He sticks in till the very end. He runs around for 7 seconds and throws that Hail Mary short of the goal line. It gets knocked up in the air, and a Washington Commander comes down with the ball on the tip drill. What an amazing. I was still listening to the game, but I kind of, you know, put my phone down and was walking away for that play because I thought there's no way they're going to get this, right? I'm just going to go take a shower, get this blue out of my beard. And I walk downstairs and they get the Hail Mary. And oh my God, I could not believe it. That was the craziest play I've seen in a long time in the NFL.
Yeah, it's been a minute. And congratulations on getting over 50 likes this morning. We got ads turned off. You guys did a great job. Got it done in the first, right in the first half hour. It's 8:30 in the morning. We hit it right on time.
Right on.
All right, so good job there. Good job. Man, Taylor Decker. Let's talk about Taylor for a minute.
For sure.
Rewatching, you know, a little bit of that first play, I swear, it's like Taylor's feet have just been stuck in the mud the last couple of weeks. He's not moving laterally as well as he used to. And I am a bit concerned about this. It's not like we have gone up against the best edge rushers over the last several weeks. At least we haven't gone. I mean, let me take that back. The Rams game, we had an onslaught of, you know, different styles and youthfulness rushing at the Lions with, you know, Jared Verse and others, Byron Young. Week by week, I mean, Tampa Bay is obviously a problem too. Their defense is really good, but I'm not saying like we're not going up against the Bosas and the Max and the Crosbys and the Garretts and, you know, all the people that you guys want, right? We're not going up against, you know, all the Reddicks or, I mean, Arden Key is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination, but Decker's just getting beat bad. And your left tackle has to be the most important piece on the offensive line. That is Jared Goff's blind side. You're going to get him hurt. And I thought that Jared was going to get hurt. And he did get hurt with his ankle. But, I mean, one of these times he's just going to get hurt. And that's what I don't want to see. The biggest thing that I asked for, you know, up, you know, through this game, you know, throughout the week last week was I wanted to see more pre-snap motion. And we saw it. Not saying that Ben listens to me, could give a crap what I say. But we saw a lot more pre-snap motion. Even though it was as limited as an offense as we were running, because we didn't need it, that pre-snap motion was getting everybody open. If you guys didn't notice last night, anytime they ran a lot of pre-snap motion, it was a wide open touchdown or it was a wide open throw. And it works. But that pre-snap motion also helps to park a tight end behind Taylor Decker, off to the side of Taylor Decker, or while in motion, the ball is hiked and the tight end is coming to chip, you know, the edge rusher that was giving Decker some fits. We didn't go to the game with Parker Hess. And that concerned me because if we didn't have Parker Hess, what were we going to do when we needed to have an extra guy in the I formation to pick up, you know, the additional blitzers, but at least just, you know, to help out Taylor Decker. So that's got to get fixed. So either Ben Johnson is going to have to start to scheme additional blockers to that side, or I mean, I'm not going to say that Taylor's going to get replaced. They just extended the dude. So, and, you know, and then again, doesn't mean that he couldn't be traded away next year. I don't see that happening either. But, and I'm not saying I want that to happen. I love Taylor Decker and everything he's about and everything he's been about for this team. My question is he battling some injuries right now that we just don't know about? Is he banged up? because he's probably not telling the coaches, he wants to play. He looks like laterally he can't move that well. So Eric, I'll let you comment on that right after Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill, super shout out, super chat says, I'm out on Decker. To be honest, even last year, Gary and Sweat toyed with him. And then these last 2 games, I have low hopes when he faces Gary on Sunday. Yeah. So this is where, and super shout out to you, man. Appreciate your support, Ed, of the channel. You do an excellent job. Let me get you let's get you the epic win against the Rams.
For the second time since 1957, for the first time since January 5th, 1992, these Detroit Lions are going to win a playoff game.
Oh, and I expect to win many more playoff games this season. So Ed, yeah, I'm with you, buddy. And I think that this is going to be a game where Ben is going to have to scheme to the left. He's going to have to. He's going to have to park somebody behind Decker. He's going to have to give Decker some help because it's not been good over the last couple of weeks. And we'll dig into his grades tomorrow. I'm going to watch some tape today. We'll watch tape again tomorrow night. So yeah, Eric, what do you got to say?
Yeah, there's something going on with Decker. A knee, an ankle, a foot, a back, a something that's just not getting listed. He's just not putting it on the injury list. There's something going on. Otherwise, there's something going on up here with him.
Mentally,
and
yeah.
So there's something happening, and you can see it. You can see that it's taking him a while in every game to get it going. And then he's having lapses during each game where his guy's getting free and getting to Goff, because he's the one that's giving up all these sacks. It's not the interior of the offensive line. It's not the right tackle. This is all coming from left tackle right now. And other NFL defenses are seeing this. They're watching our tape. So they know that this is happening. So what I would suggest is on these plays where we have Skipper come in and Skipper reports, let's have him be on Taylor Decker's side. Let's give him some extra help. When we have the big packages with the tight end in as a blocker, have them go to the left side. Let's give him some help. And I've been very surprised this year, especially with the Packers having a competent defense, because they have this new defensive coordinator that came from Boston College. I didn't think someone would come from college being a coordinator like that and put together a really decent defense.
I'm sorry, who? Who are you talking about?
The defensive coordinator for the Packers.
Oh yeah, he's damn good, man.
Yeah, so I had my doubts early in the season, but man, the Packers, their defense is very, very good this year. So we are going to have to prepare Taylor Decker this weekend to face the best defense that we have faced so far this year.
Well, let's not kid ourselves, and I'm not going to go deep off into the Packers right now, but Jeff Hafley and Robert Saleh together in a room with their head coach. There's a reason why Saleh's in town. They've got the biggest game ahead of them this week. And Robert Saleh is a defensive mind. Jeff Hafley is a defensive mind. This is not going to be an easy game. But anyway, we'll come back to the Packers starting Wednesday. So Taylor Decker, he's played 391 snaps right now throughout the season. He's got 3 penalties. He's allowed 4 sacks. He's the 107th out of 120th ranked left tackle for sacks given up on the season. I would say I'm less concerned about the sack numbers because we don't take a ton. And to Bo Booth's point, great point. Taylor Decker at 80% is still better than 80% of the league, right? So I would still want Taylor Decker in. I'm not saying that we run away from Taylor Decker. I love everything about Taylor Decker. It's just something is off right now. That's the only thing that I'm trying to talk about is something is off. Yep. What is it? Or am I being greedy because he's been so damn good for so long? I mean, he went like 2 seasons without giving up a sack. And it might even have been longer than that. It was a very long time, and that's what started to earn him, these bigger contracts. Is he went so long without giving up a sack. It was some crazy streak. I can't remember the numbers. But anyway, right now he doesn't look comfortable. Something looks off, and I'm hoping that Ben Johnson goes back to scheming the way that he was, and I'm sure that he will. I mean, according to what we just read in the chat too, they're talking about bad weather in Green Bay this weekend. A little bit of rain, a little bit of cold. Sounds like it's going to be a running kind of a day, which we're going to need, a bigger offensive line in. So we will go heavier on the line, and we're going to win that matchup, hands down. We will win that matchup. But right now, positional, blocking assignments and ranks for Taylor Decker. He is 88th in pressures allowed for the season, 13. Now, I don't know if this is updated today. I don't know how many he allowed last night, but he was 88th in total pressures allowed with 13, but he gave up 4 sacks. So, and he's allowed only 1 hit. That doesn't make any sense. If you've allowed 4 sacks, you've allowed 4 hits. 3 penalties. He's just not having his best season. Chris MVP Harris in the house this morning with a $4.99 super chat says, "Good morning, guys. Wow, what a performance." Chris MVP Harris, man, appreciate your support of the channel. Good morning to you, brother. Lions win, man. Let's get you set up with Gibbs TD.
Goff takes the snap, Gibbs to Gibbs, Gibbs bounces through a hole, there it goes outside 20, Gibbs 15, Gibbs 10, angling to the end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions. Oh baby, what a run.
All right, let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs for a moment. My goodness. I can't wait to rewatch some of this tape again today. Watching Jahmyr Gibbs yesterday bust one from the 30-yard line. And we have seen this play time and time again from the Lions. It is just an outside, off the tackle zone play, left side, Taylor Decker's side. So, I mean, Taylor and Graham actually ran this play perfectly, and that's why I love what Taylor Decker does. When he does what he does well, it works out like that. So without Taylor Decker, that play doesn't happen. They opened up that hole perfectly. They ran it twice last week, left side and right side. It is an identical play. I got to get the name of the play. I don't know what it is. So they run the same play, the left and the right? It's just a typical outside zone play. He just had a little hole. And he gets through that hole. He gets up to the second level where Graham Glasgow is, and he's off to the races because the Titans blew it. They didn't put anybody off to that side, and it was a mirror image of what the Lions did against Aaron Jones last week. Mirror image breakdown in defensive scheme. But how exciting was that, watching it from the stadium? I haven't seen, I think the last run that I've seen like that might have been, David Montgomery had a 70-yarder last year?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So, and that was down in Tampa Bay, right?
Yep.
So this is probably the second longest run we've had from scrimmage in the last few seasons. So how exciting was that to watch, man?
Yeah. Listen, I was there when Javid Best ripped off an 80-yarder. And this was just as impressive. And we couldn't believe it. It was the very first play on offense. And you got to remember, Tennessee had just scored to tie it up 14-14. And then he rips off this 70-yard play. One play, that quick, bam, we're back in the lead, right? It just amazing play. And Ben Johnson had challenged Jahmyr Gibbs this last couple of weeks to be able to make the man miss in the second level. So he was talking about cornerbacks and safeties that keep getting him when he gets loose, and he's just got that one guy to beat in the backfield or in the defensive backfield. And he did it this time, and he smoked him, man. Once he got loose, there was nobody catching him. And that guy took a horrible angle, the safety did, to try to hit him out of bounds. And for a split second, you thought maybe he'd catch him, maybe he'd get him out of bounds. But, man, once he got past that safety, holy moly. And I think, if I saw correctly, he hit 22 miles an hour on that run.
Wow. That's moving. Quick shout out to Peter Van Larhoven because he brought a very good point in, which speaks to the life side of football, right? The home life. Taylor Decker. Peter says it's called dealing with a young child and a pregnant wife.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot that could be said there. I mean, obviously I've been through it twice. Eric, you've been through it. So there's a lot to it. Anytime that you have a growing family or even a first child, it doesn't matter if it's first, second, third, fourth, it doesn't matter. It's never easy. There's a lot going on there. Being a professional athlete, having a demanding schedule, and then having to be, a demanding father, and being a good husband. Yeah, there's a lot. He's probably not getting a ton of sleep. And a lot of people say, well, these guys make so much money, they can just pay for all the help. Well, maybe they want to be there and be involved. And sometimes it's what they want to be, outside of football that they're not going to let go. And no, I could agree with you. There's probably some stuff going on there too, that it just, maybe it's not easy for them at night. Maybe they're just not getting enough sleep. Either way, I'm sure that Taylor Decker is going to be fine. I'm just noticing some things here with, it seems like the very beginning of these games, he's getting beat and we've seen Jared go down hard. I mean, really hard. I mean, I just want to see that stop. So either Ben's got to do something about it or Taylor's got to do something about it, because I'm sick of seeing Jared Goff go down hard. And one of these times he's not going to get up and he's going to get hurt. And I don't want to see that happen. So just want to see it fixed. That's all. It's just one of those things that has to get fixed. It's something that they work on every week. But don't misplace my my loyalty to Taylor Decker, because the dude's been phenomenal for the Lions for the longest. He is what the Lions are about. A couple of headlines here to talk about. I've seen it in the chat here. Show starts at 8 a.m. Some days we start a little early. Some days we go way after 10 a.m. But definitely 8 to 10 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday. We got pop-up shows that pop up throughout the week, videos that pop in throughout the week. I'm trying to do more and more and more. I just have a demanding schedule myself right now. What else was in there? Peter Van Larhoven, Gibbs speed is at another level. Absolutely. And talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, the guy, I know everyone says how electric he is, right? And I don't know if you've seen the Twitter things popping up where he's running through the rings like on Sonic. It's just perfect. I love those things. We are so blessed right now to have this running back room that we have. And headed into, a game like this weekend where it could be rainy, could be cold. This is exactly why this team has been built this way. This is exactly why, again, I go back to Brad Holmes and say, man, you set this team up to win in any sort of inclement weather or any sort of a situation. We have the pieces that we need. That's why the draft is so important, because you can't just pull and plug, all these players from other teams all the time and make it all fit, make it all work. And he's making it work through the draft first. What else do we have this morning? Injury news. So we saw Rodrigo go down. What did you hear during the game?
I didn't hear anything, and I didn't even notice that he got hurt. I didn't hear until after the game that he got hurt, because leaving the stadium, I was like, man, we finally got out of the game and nobody had a major injury. And then come to find out, Rodrigo had his ankle rolled on or something, and he had to be carted off. I didn't even see it.
Yeah, we saw that going down. We saw them getting carted or carting Rodrigo off, but I didn't know the extent, because he didn't finish the game, right? He didn't come back, and that's usually not a good thing. Yeah. If you just have a low ankle sprain, you can get taped up and usually come back in. But when it's a high ankle sprain or even a mid, depending on the grade, you're talking 3-4 weeks minimum. Yeah. Though Dan Campbell did say last night that he didn't think it would be something like that would take the rest of the season. But high ankle sprains, man, if they are not treated right, they do take forever, it seems like. Yeah. So there's really no new information on this right now. But this puts the pressure back on Brad Holmes, because we can't continue to lose our glue guys. Rodrigo has been a glue guy since day one. He's someone that is always ready to go, always plays at a high level. He doesn't have the biggest size in the world, but he plays hard, man. He's just all about what the Detroit Lions do right. And you hate to see, you know, things happen for this guy that every year it seems like he battles some sort of an injury and it keeps him out. I mean, last year we didn't even see him in on defense a whole lot. We saw him playing more offensive side of the ball until, you know, they went out and picked somebody up to take that position away from him this year. We don't see Rodrigo on the offensive side of the ball this year. He's playing more defense. He's needed. So what are the Lions going to do? Your backs are up against it. This is the final countdown. It is now October 28th. You have, what, 8 days? 7-8 days now of, you know, trade deadline time. Are they going to pull something off before this weekend? Or is it going to be the Monday after or the Tuesday after before the 5th where, you know, this game, or I'm sorry, where this team, you know, finally makes a move? To speak on the defensive end situation, or, you know, Brad Holmes bringing somebody in at this point. Myles Garrett is out. Max Crosby is out. Hassan Reddick is staying a Jet. Who else is really available that makes a whole lot of sense? We talked about Jadeveon Clowney. We've talked about Harold Landry. We've talked about dariussmith. We've talked about Arden Key as of, you know, this morning and last night. So the team, you know, the guys, and look, the guys that Brad Holmes brought in, everyone's like, oh, you know, Brad Holmes is just a budget dollar guy and, you know, Dollar General guy dipping into the bargain bin and, you know, blah, 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 right? Quadin Muhammad had a pretty decent game last night for just being with the team barely a couple of weeks. Thomas had a pretty decent game. Now, we don't have a ton of stats from them, but you look at what happened in this game. The Lions get off to a slow start, right? Defensively and offensively. They kind of get off to a slow start on defense, and then they shut them down. 14 points scored, and then they shut them down. So last night, you know, during the live, Eric, I'm talking, I'm like, oh boy, you know, I thought that we would blow these guys out. You know, during the week, I thought it would be a lot closer. And then I flipped at the end. I'm like, yeah, I think that we're going to blow these guys out. Riley O'Brien was in. He's saying, so Will, you think you're changing your mind now? And I said, yeah. You know, now that I see that, you know, L'Jarius Sneed is out, I think the Lions are going to have an easier day.
Yep.
Still can't ignore that they have what is on paper the best defense in the league. And when we got into this situation early in the game, I'm like, oh boy, maybe I should have stuck with my first. And I pivoted and I thought, yep, we're going to be able to do it. We're going to hang them on this, you know, we're going to hang some points on this team today. Well, they did. It just took them a minute. And it's kind of the same thing that I've been saying about Jared Goff every single season is when you have new guys that join the team, guys that haven't played a lot, you know, together or even in a game situation together, it takes them a minute, right? They have to gel. They have to learn, you know, what their partners on the field are doing and how they communicate, you know, on the field. I mean, it's like it's a dance, man. These guys are out there dancing and they're all dance partners and they have to figure out their moves. They have to be able to read each other's minds and, you know, understand the physical, you know, hand signals and everything that they're giving, because you can't hear, especially on defense, you can't hear. So if you call something in the huddle and it changes on the field, it's all hand signals. So you have to know what each other's thinking and what each other's doing. You have to know the scheme. So when you see that happening last night and you see us getting off to a rough start and Ridley's going crazy, it wasn't until Terry and Arnold was put on Ridley that the bloodshed started to stop. Did you notice that?
Yes.
That was
Arnold had one heck of a game.
That was huge. So now we'll watch the tape and verify, but Carlton Davis gave up at least 100 yards to Ridley quickly, like in the first quarter. And then Terry and Arnold took more of the assignment and it just like shut down. Ridley couldn't get anything going. But the whole point that I'm trying to make here is it just takes a minute sometimes for your defense to start to gel. And it took them, you know, about a quarter. And then they just was smooth. It was smooth sailing after that. And so one of the things that popped up during the stream last night was we need an edge rusher. We need an edge rusher. We need an edge rusher. And this is happening because we need an edge rusher. And I'm like, okay, I get it, you know, or Mason Rudolph has all day to throw. And I even warned people, I said, I'm telling you, look, he doesn't have all day to throw. Even without looking at a stat right now, I can, without a stopwatch, I'm telling you, he doesn't have all day to throw. I can just tell. Well, you know, I went and looked this morning. Jared Goff, who was under pressure again, 2.65 seconds time to throw last night for Jared Goff. Take a wild guess where you would think, just watching the game from the stands. And I know you said that we needed a pass rusher as well, Eric, and we do. I mean, we do. I'm not talking about the, you know, the misinformation, whatever that came across your phone, but just the fact that we need an edge rusher, and I understand it. And when you were watching the game last night live, did you feel like Mason Rudolph had all day to throw?
On a couple of plays, yes. Now, I really, when we were on defense, I tried to pay attention yesterday because I was in the end zone, so I was looking straight at our the backs of our defensive players, you know, especially when the Titans were coming right at me. And I tried to pay attention to Muhammad, Thomas, and Houston. Those were the three that anytime they were in, I tried to pay attention to one or the other on either side. So Levi they were popping in at defensive edge a lot yesterday. So whenever he was in, I was trying to watch the other defensive edge to see what happened. And actually, Muhammad was very close a couple of times. And then I watched one play where Houston was just, I'm telling you, I don't know how he didn't get a sack. He was so close. And Rudolph got the ball off, but it was for an incompletion. And so Houston looked much, that was definitely his best game of the year, as far as I'm concerned, just watching it with the eyeball test. Houston looked much better yesterday. He was getting around his guy, and even when he wasn't getting around his guy, he was pushing his guy back into Mason Rudolph's face.
And that was Peter Skoronski. You know, you're talking about a big tackle. One of the first plays I saw of Houston when he got in, definitely hasn't lost his bend. Still looks solid, you know, from that standpoint. He got around quickly, almost had a sack, and then the second play he kind of got held up a little bit, but
yeah, and it just didn't seem like they had Houston out there all that much.
Yeah.
It seemed like they had him out there for a little bit and then disappeared. It was all Muhammad and Thomas after that. And Thomas, he ended up, I think, getting one or two pressures, and he actually recovered one of the fumbles.
Yeah.
That Amik Robertson caused.
We haven't even gotten into that side of this. You know how well this team is at turnovers. So Mason Rudolph. If I were to tell you guys that Mason Rudolph was a top 10 quarterback last night, do you think that's positive or negative?
Negative.
So negative, right? He had the 7th most pressures in the league last night as far as quarterback pressure for dropbacks. 39% of his dropbacks were pressured. 7th. So Anthony Richardson was 60%, CJ Stroud 57.5%, Caleb Williams 51.6%, Jake Haener 42.9%, Lamar Jackson 41.9%, Jaden Daniels 39.1%, Mason Rudolph 39.0%. So here's what I'm going to say. The Bears went out and bought $60 million worth of guys for their front 7. And they drafted 3 and they bought 4. And they have 0.1% better pressure rate than the Lions do with a bunch of UDFAs, 6th and 7th round, 5th round picks. I mean, what are we talking about here, guys? Trust Brad Holmes for a minute.
Yep.
Because, the proof is right there in the stats. The stats do tell you something. And then you go watch the game tape and you marry the two up. And you figure out, all right, the stats, a little fictitious here because they can tell you one side of the story and not the rest. Well, that can happen. But I think that what we noticed is when this game settled down for some of these guys, they settled in. Now, we only produced 1 sack. But I said last night, without even counting the amount of pressures, I said we have at least 14 is what I said last night. At least. We had 16 pressures last night, which is better than our weekly average. Now, when Aiden was in, yeah, we had 1 or 2 crazy games. I think it was one crazy game where we had like 40 some odd pressures. But the average has been, around 16, 17, 18 pressures a game. I think if you were to average it all together. So getting 16 pressures, again, where does that stack up in the league? Guys, we were fifth in pressures in the league last night. Actually, we were tied for 4th. The most pressures was against Anthony Richardson, 24, 23 against CJ Stroud, 18 against Lamar Jackson, 18 against Jaden Daniels, 16 against Mason Rudolph, 16 against Caleb Williams. So again, I mean, the proof is in the stats. It's in what we're doing every week. You don't hang 52 points on a team and only allow them 14 points. That last night was a game where I expected to watch Mason Rudolph put up 500 yards. Once you get up to a lead like that, I'm expecting 500 yards to come raining down on the Lions through the air. Didn't happen. Oh, wait, we held another running back to under 100 yards?
Yep.
I mean, come on. Clearly, what Brad Holmes is doing is working. So give the man a little bit of respect here that if he doesn't go pull the plug on a $25 million defensive end, there's a reason why. And yeah, I may be in the only one in this boat, rowing by myself, claiming, trust Brad Holmes, and that's fine. I'll eat it. I'll live with it because I haven't been wrong yet about it. And I don't think that Brad Holmes is going to get it wrong. I'm not saying that he doesn't have to do something or that he shouldn't do something. But if it's way out of bounds, capital wise, if it's way out of bounds, draft capital wise, it doesn't make sense. I think that we should know and understand that Brad wants to do something. But to what extent? To what extent do you want to give away your future? Remember, these guys were just extended themselves. Sheila Hamp is expecting a team that can win for 10 years. That's what she's expecting, a team that's not going to look back on futility.
Yep.
And you've come this far. In 3 short seasons, you were 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl. Nobody expected that. I expected it this year. I always said that the 4th season, we were half a season away. We needed that extra draft, and we would be smooth sailing at some point as long as they could continue doing what they were doing, retain the guys that they have, and that Jared Goff continues his trend. And all of that stuff has come to fruition. I probably go a little bit deeper into the stats and the research than most people. I know like Lauren McQuaig, he does a really good job with some stats and probably goes deeper than I do. I don't know where he gets all of his stuff from, but he finds some information, man. If you're interested, let me just throw this out there. I keep forgetting to plug things. So if you're interested about podcasting or being a writer or an analyst, or, you want to provide content, if you want to do research, we are always looking for good, talented people to help. If you want to be a guest on the show and provide segments, we expect high quality segments. But if you want to do that kind of stuff, if you're good at graphics, if you want to be an intern, if you want to get something on your resume, if you've got a young child that is interested in podcasting or media or being a writer or whatever, we've got space for you. And it's all remote work. You do it from home. So if you know people, email mailbag@rockdown.com. Make sure they put in their intern or something in the subject line so it catches my eye. Bring me your talented people, because we could always use more talented people. I do all of this myself, and Eric does some work too on some of the segments that he does, but large majorities, I take a lot of time to put a lot of stuff together, and it could always be better, always be better. So we want to elevate, and it's exactly what Brad Holmes is going to do. He's going to try to elevate, right? He's going to try to, evolve this team to the next phase of a winning culture for a decade. Can we please just have a winning team for a decade? That's really hard to do. But I think that would probably wipe away and erase so many bad feelings and negative energy from a lot of fans that just still can't get it out of their heads that we are not SOL anymore. We're not. So I don't know, Eric, how do you feel? At the end of the day, how do you really feel about what do you think the Lions should be doing this week? Is it a linebacker? Is it a defensive end? Is it both? Is it two defensive ends? What is it?
I'm going to flip this whole question you just asked me upside down and on its head.
All right.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask everybody in the chat a question. Doesn't this feel different than any other Lions season in history? As a Lions fan, doesn't this feel different? Don't you have this sense of confidence and accomplishment and trust in our GM and our head coach and our coordinators that this is different, no matter who we trot out there on Sunday, that we are going to be able to put it together and we are going to be able to win these games no matter who they put out on the field right now. I don't care if we play the Chiefs right now. I don't care if we play the Packers right now. I don't care if we play the Bears right now. I don't care who it is. I have all the confidence in the world right now that you put our Detroit Lions out against any team right now, that we can take them on and give them 60 minutes of pure hell and come out the other side victorious. So doesn't it feel different this year than any other season, confidence-wise, that our GM knows what he's doing? So to answer your question, I don't know what Brad Holmes is going to do. In my personal opinion, do I think they need somebody? Yes, but I think they just need depth. I don't think that they need to mortgage the future. I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust and F them picks time yet. I just don't believe I don't believe we're quite to that point yet. And I don't think Brad Holmes will ever be to that point where he says F them picks, and trade away 3 firsts for a Max Crosby or somebody. I just don't think it's going to happen. And all these fictitious trades involving Hendon Hooker, no way. Brad Holmes did too much work and invested too much draft capital to get a player like Hendon Hooker. And he's the one that sat there for a year where Hendon Hooker couldn't even play for a year. He's not going to release or trade away these assets that he put so much work into acquiring. So, yeah, I don't know what Brad Holmes is going to do. What would I like to see him do? Let's see. I would like to see him trade, if he's going to trade, a low-tier player or a low-tier draft pick, somewhere in the 5th to 7th round range. And I wouldn't mind seeing him acquire 2 players, but I'm thinking one will be by the trade deadline and one might be after the trade deadline. It might be somebody off somebody's practice squad, maybe a veteran that's not protected that he can snag later on. Because I know the Ravens, they had Yannick Ngakoue on their practice squad. And as soon as that happened to Hutch, they elevated him. They put him on the main roster. Well, every team's not going to be able to do that. So there's going to be somebody that Brad can snag later on, I think. He just has to see where these elevations go up and down. And I think you're gonna see some lower tier stuff. I don't think you're gonna see the big high draft pick stuff. And who we acquire might be somebody that was a 2nd, 3rd round draft pick originally and just didn't fit in with their original team. And Brad might see something that he can pull out of them.
All right, so let me try to answer a few of these things here. So, number one, you asked the question, does it feel different? Yeah, I've been saying that since last year, that it definitely feels different. And even this year, I think that if I were to say it feels different in a different way. Man, I'm using the word different a lot.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean. It's the Bad News Bears. It's the Mighty Ducks. It's the team that just can't lose. It's the team that loses a ton of players. It still finds a way to win, which speaks to coaching, which speaks to scheme, which speaks to the readiness and the preparedness of the team. It speaks to all 69 players being ready every single day, having each other's back. It speaks to the top 25 players that are showing up to practice, being the best practice team. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown said, we got to be the best practice team if we want to win. And that all starts from St. Brown's early days as a kid with his father and getting started that way to be the best person he can be, the best athlete he can be, and putting all in the best student he can be. It's the best, right? With the kind of guys that we're keeping on this team and the kind of guys that bring it into this team to set the culture, to create an identity, that's what you can't screw up. You screw that up, you screw everything else up. That's why you're not going to see an infectious attitude walking through those doors that is negative. You're not going to see someone that teeters the borderline of positive and negative. You're going to see a good, wholesome dude walk through the doors, if anybody at all. It's different because everybody is playing to that level now on this team. Everyone understands now, as they've seen through the last many weeks, we have to be ready. Every single one of us has to be ready. And this is a team that can win and take it all the way. And this is what Brad and Dan and the rest of that whole organization has been getting these guys ready for, is to be in this type of mental space where they can go the distance with anybody in that room. Now, I want to answer a few questions here from some statements in the chat. All right, Steve K says, remember the Titans were a 1-6 team. We'll see next week against the Green Bay Packers whether our pass rush is sufficient or not. So, Steve, so I guess my response to that would be the Titans still had the number one defense on paper. And if they had the number one defense on paper going up against one of the best offenses, I mean, we scolded them. I mean, kicked the crap out of them. So I guess, does it really matter if you have the best defense? If the best offense can come in and just whip your butt? So I guess there should be something to say there, with, the Lions having to upgrade, our defensive edge rushers. Does it really make a difference? And Steve, I mean, I guess for me, I don't know that we're going to need a ton of pass rush next week. The whole game plan for me in this game, what I thought was going to work well was utilizing the interior guys. And I can't wait to see who had all the pressures. But utilizing the interior guys to get the pressure and then firing off some linebackers. That's exactly what the Lions did. And it worked. So there's many ways to skin the cat here. We just need smart, disciplined edge guys. That's it. Don't break contain. Trevor Nowaski got burnt bad last night and one of the first plays for that touchdown to Mason Rudolph. That's a young player's mistake. He got his feet in the mud. Carlton Davis, same thing. He had his feet stuck in the mud on a play that broke for, 20 yards, I think, on a run. That kind of stuff can't happen. Like those are just boneheaded moves. But after those, couple of boneheaded moves, everybody settled in and they started to play smart, disciplined football. So appreciate the comment this morning, Steve, but, it's going to be a good test, though. I agree with you. It's going to be a great test. We're finally going to be going up against a fairly potent offense. And I guess my other statement on that, your statement, would be this. We have the best backfield we've ever had. We got two of the best safeties in the league. Getting an interception every game now is like supposed to happen. Carlton Davis had a rough night last night. TA backed him up. That was the best thing that probably came out of the game last night from those two guys, is that TA stepped up big time. And he's not getting penalties. He is starting to finally settle in. We have Amik Robertson punching balls out left and right. Punched 2 out last night. You can't deny now the best 5, DBs in the NFC North are in Honolulu Blue, in my opinion. Let's see here. Noah Vick, send me an email, buddy. Anytime, man. Send me an email, mailbag@rockdon.com. Let's see here. There was another one here. Vincent Soames. If we get some actual edges, our defense will look like it did in the beginning of the season. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, because what I noticed in the beginning of the season was not that great. A lot of pressure, no results. A lot of pressure, and yeah, I mean, our defense was stopping the run game, but we're still doing that. We are shutting down mobile quarterbacks. We're still kind of doing that. Nothing's really changed. If you go look at the run stats from every team, Eric, and you know this, if you go look at the run stats or rushing stats from every team that we faced, we haven't allowed 100 yards to any single running back or quarterback. And we've held most quarterbacks under 40 yards. Most mobile dual threat quarterbacks under 40 yards. So the only issue I see for next week is Malik Willis. Because right now it's looking like Jordan Love is out. At least from what I've read, it does look like he's potentially going to be out. But we'll follow closely throughout the week, obviously, like you will be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not as quick to say that I want to see, how everything looked in the beginning of this season. I would love to have Marcus Davenport back and Aiden Hutchins back, without a doubt. Would love to have them back. But from a statistical side and production side, things are still what they were. Now, we're not coming up with bunches of sacks every single week, but we weren't back then either. Since the Cowboys game, I think we've recorded at least 6 sacks, which is about on average, for what we were doing before this, before we lost Aiden. And yeah, I'm not as concerned with that. I'm really not. Wayne Rogers says, is there any concern with the Lions peaking too soon? The CBS studio crew is discussing the Lions, brought this up. Bill Cowher and Nate Burleson did not agree that was a worry. This is a good conversational piece right here, Wayne. Dan Campbell speaks to this every year. He wants us playing our best ball, right? He wants the Lions playing their best ball come December. I always say, January, you've got to peak. You have to. For February ball, you got to peak. Obviously, you want to put yourself in position in December to be able to shut down the NFC North and, get after a 1 seed. So, yeah, maybe you do need to kind of start peaking, towards the end of December. I just want our best 4 games to happen, between the middle of January and February. So I think that we're okay. I don't think that we've peaked. I don't even think we've come close. I mean, look, last night's offense. We didn't do anything on offense except 5 for 5 in the red zone. I think our longest pass was 19 yards. So I don't think we've peaked. I think that we've just kind of stood still, and we're just making plays where plays need to be made. And if anything, the guys are just trying to learn how to play together, because every week we've got new guys, it seems like, that are coming in. So I don't think that we've peaked yet. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, if we were peaking on offense and defense, we would have hung 70 plus on these guys yesterday. And it would have been 70 something to 0 if we were peaking on both offense and defense.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have allowed a single point, and we would have absolutely crushed them. And you would have seen Hooker come in for after halftime instead of the fourth quarter. Because if we were peaking, it would have been absolute, total, utter domination. And that's what I think was missing yesterday. I mean, we hung 52 on them, but we took our foot off the pedal right at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah. Happy Hodgepodge says, I agree with what feels different is there isn't just one player who is good. There are many. And those players and staff are like family who are leaning on each other. And that was a big word that I used last night too. Family. Like that's where you can feel that it's different. Is that this team there's no eyes on this team. Not one. Very beginning of this season and last year, I say it every year, that I've been doing this. If you are an unselfish team, and this speaks to defense too, if you are an unselfish team, you will win more games. And the reason why is because if you care about your eyes, your individual stats, your interceptions, anything that involves you and you only, then you're not playing as a team. You're playing as an individual. You play unselfishly. You do your job. You play into your role. You stay disciplined. The rest of the team does the same thing. You will win more games. And when you take all of the I's out and you inject all the we's, those stats come naturally. I've always said if you just play naturally, you allow things to happen naturally. Sometimes you don't have to blitz. If you can win your one-on-ones, you just allow things to happen naturally. Last night we rushed 4 and still got home. So it goes back to everything that I've been preaching, that this team just needs to continue playing unselfish football. I don't care if Aiden gets 15 sacks or 5 sacks. Or 50 sacks. What I care about is that front 7 gets 50 sacks collectively if you feel like sacks are needed. But I don't need one guy to have the most. Give 5 or 6 sacks to every guy. Great. They still got the same job done. One player is not going to win the game for you. And I think that's been proven, I don't know, in the last 80 years of football. I think it's been proven. Not one single player is going to just win the game for you. It will always take 2, no matter what. It takes a quarterback to throw the ball. It takes a quarterback to hand the ball off. Minimum of 2 players to win the game. Now, from a defensive standpoint, you can't go 1 on 11. You need those other 10 guys. It's the ultimate team football game. And if you listen to my my interview with Riley O'Brien, I'll post it again. You'll hear why, this game really meant so much to me and how important it is. Part of my just growing up, man, just part of family and things like that. But there's a lot to this game. All Balls No D wanted to know my thoughts and opinions on Harold Landry and who else? Travon Walker or Tavon Walker. I don't really have an opinion. I don't think Walker or Landry is going to end up in Detroit. I've kind of spoken at length about the defensive end position and what needs to happen. Look, I think it's this simple. If the Lions, and kind of Eric's got the same idea to a degree, poaching someone's practice squad, after the trade deadline will always be an option. Especially if there's somebody that ends up there that, isn't protected. I wouldn't say that there's a lot there right now. There really isn't, especially if you're looking for, a high impact player. They're not going to be on a practice squad, but that's always an option for depth. Prior to the trade deadline, yeah, I think that this is, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round draft capital territory that Brad Holmes would probably be comfortable giving up. I don't believe that we have a 3rd round pick next year, right?
No.
I think we've got a 1st, a 2nd, a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, and 2 7ths. So, yeah, I think that you're not going to give up a 3rd next year because you don't have one. So that means you'd probably have to give up a 7th and a 4th if you want to get, a fairly good player like a Clowney or, even, dare I say, Dariussmith or, somebody to that nature. Arden Key, I'm not even sure what he was traded for last time. I'd have to do the research. But yeah, I think, a 4th and a 7th, or, you know, a fifth and a conditional something next year or the year after in 2026. I don't know, but I think it's low end draft capital. And I don't think the Lions are going to want to spend, probably more than 8 to 10 million a season with combined salary for that player. I think 8 to 10 million would be the max that they would want to spend. Just looking at what's down the line for them. And you know what? They may only want a 2-year contract or less because, it's easier to get off of those contracts. It's easier to deal with those contracts. They don't want something looming over their heads for $60 million over the next 3 seasons. At least based on the history of Brad Holmes and what he's done so far. That's how I would analyze it. There was another question in here. I got to go back here and look. Anything on your mind while I'm looking, Eric?
Well, you were just talking, and
I'm always talking.
Well, you were saying a single player can't just put the whole team on their back and you expect the team to win. But the narrative with fans in the NFL is that a quarterback should be able to put the team on their back and win the game like Patrick Mahomes. And so that always gets thrown at Goff as why Goff isn't one of the top tier quarterbacks in the NFL because he doesn't put the team on his shoulders and win the game because of Goff. And I'll throw it back at everyone that said that for so long. Go look at Goff's stats for the last 5 games. He has been absolutely historic. He has done things that Dan Marino didn't do, that Mahomes has never done, that Brady didn't do. You name it, Favre, Rodgers, any of them have never had a 5-game streak like Jared Goff has had the last 5 games.
Well, to add to that, Eric, I mean, you're talking 25 TDs to 19 incompletions.
Mm-hmm.
We have more TDs than Jared Goff has incompletions over the last 5 games.
Exactly.
It's craziness. How about an average of 43 points per game?
Yeah.
Over the last 4 games or so.
Yeah, and there's only one team in the NFL that has scored more points than the Detroit Lions, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But they've had one more game than the Lions have had.
The only thing that I would say about this, single-minded war chest that's going to go in and win everything and put the team on their back, Goff has still got to throw it to somebody. Still has to hand the ball off. So it's not just Goff. He still has to be protected. And when he's not protected, he's got to be able to evade and maneuver and get the ball out as quickly as possible. Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't help to have an upper echelon, an elite player added to your team. Of course it does. But I think that we would be naive in thinking that just one player can come in and completely change the game and just, win all these games for us. I think it's quite the opposite. I think that a player can come in and ruin a team before they're going to help a team get over the hump.
Yeah.
Because if too much is put on that player and your other players are starting to feel a certain way, things can get dicey quickly. Remember, everyone's got egos, right? Everyone's got egos and ulterior motives, feelings, contracts, future contracts. That stuff is always going to be there. If you have the right guys, a lot of times that stuff doesn't matter as much. At least it's not the first topic of discussion, but it's still a topic, right? It's still there. Brad's just going to be careful. That's all. He's just going to be careful. 25 TDs to 19 incompletions is ludicrous, man.
Yeah, and
just
listen,
ludicrous.
For the first time in my life, I can actually talk about the quarterback for my favorite team as being in the top 2 or 3 for the discussion of MVP. That's never happened in my lifetime.
Yeah.
where we can seriously consider our quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and the national media considers our quarterback for the Detroit Lions a serious contender to win MVP of the league this year.
Yeah, no, I think that he has to be in the conversation. And, you know, Pouncer, we spoke about that last night too, that, yeah, I said that, matter of fact, in the post-game show, had Khalif not gone off, that was the first question I asked everybody. Had Khalif not gone off last night, this is a different Titans defense, because doing what we were doing with Khalif and Dorsey, running the ball down their throat on the kick and punt returns and putting us into positive, field position. And then the turnover margin deflating the Titans. That defense couldn't pin their ears back. And it just left us to do whatever we wanted to do. So yeah, that was my first question last night. Had Khalif Raymond and Dorsey not done what they did last night in the return game, that defense was having their way with us early. And it could have continued. But man, once you take that you empty their heart, you take everything out of their tank, that team was deflated. You could see it on the sideline. I mean, their heads were they were hung low. They just wanted to go home.
Yeah.
That's how you could tell. They just wanted to go home. This game's done. They still tried to play, but it was done. I kind of just lost interest in the game after a little bit, because it's just like, well, this game's done, and no one's really playing that hard. Yeah. So to your point, though, it was a pretty sloppy game. We had some issues, at certain points, but the defense played still pretty well. Matter of fact, all of this was started because I was talking about Mason Rudolph. You know that? And I totally got away from Mason Rudolph and talking about the defense, and where I was saying that, that Mason Rudolph
yeah,
last night, for everyone, crying about our defense, or a lot of people crying about our defense, I shouldn't say everyone, was the fifth most pressured, right? Had the fifth most pressures, and your Detroit Lions only allowed him to complete. We had a 66.3 rating. He only had 7 yards, per average completion, 57.9 completion percentage, 1 TD to 2 interceptions, was 22 of 38. He threw 266 yards, which I'm not mad at. And he had a minus 16.7 expected points average per play. Minus. So you're losing 2 touchdowns every time this guy touches the ball.
What was his passer rating yesterday? Do you know?
66.3. So again, I'm not as concerned as many are with his defense. I still feel like depth is a big concern. It is a big concern. What else do we have for today? Khalif Raymond. Talked about Jared Goff a little bit. So Jared Goff was 2.65 seconds time to throw last night. And again, he didn't have to do a whole lot because of, where Khalif Raymond put him in position. But even though, Taylor Decker was kind of having a rough night at the very beginning, things kind of settled in. But Jared Goff here, once again, 12 of 15, only 85 yards on the night, tossed 3 TDs, no interceptions again, 129.9 passer rating, very low, very low yards per pass because of the field position, 5.7, 80% completion rate, positive 14.2% expected points per average, right? So every time he touches the ball, you're scoring 2 touchdowns. What is DB again? Dropbacks. So he had, how many dropbacks last night? Can't be many. 19 dropbacks last night. He was pressured, sacked 4 times, quarterback pressures. This is what's crazy. So you want to talk about a good defense. When you look at these numbers, they had 7 pressures, 4 sacks. So your pressure win rate is way over 50% on the night. Jared Goff was pressured 36.8 of dropbacks. And on the plays that he was pressured, 7, 4 sacks. Those are the numbers that I like to see on our defense. I don't care about 40 pressures. I'd rather see even 20 is a lot, but 20 pressures, depending on how many plays are played in the game. 20 pressures, but you need to be winning, at least 25 to 30% of those. At least. And more is better, of course. But if you're going to get pressure, they've got to turn into something. They have to turn into a TFL, a blown up play, a batted pass, an interception, a fumble, something. Otherwise, pressure is meaningless. If you can still get pressure and the quarterback gets the ball off for a completion, well, that doesn't help. And if you get pressure and your back end can't protect, it doesn't help. So pressure is meaningless. And I've said this in the beginning of the season, and I hope a lot of people listened or now understand what I'm talking about with it, is if you get pressure on a quarterback and you make them get rid of the ball too quickly, and your DBs are not in lockstep with that receiver, you are actually making it worse on your team. That's where pressure can hurt you. If you're in a soft zone and you're not up on your opponent, right? You're not up on your assignment, and you get pressure in 2.68 seconds, and that ball comes flying out, and you're nowhere near the receiver, which we see quite often, or used to, when we play in that soft zone. That's why we get burned so much. Has anyone really ever thought about that since I said it, from week 1 and 2 and 3? That's why we would get burned over the middle so much. We call it bend but don't break, but there's another side to this coin too. And it's called you're getting too much pressure too quickly. Your DBs are not in play. They're not in position. So that's why you have to go with man and get pressure. That's what works best with pressure, is man coverage. Pressure and zone coverage, in my opinion, don't work the best. You can let your safeties hover, but your DBs have to be in man. They have to be. And I think that's been the deciding difference for this Aaron Glenn defense, is when we're in this soft zone and we're getting too much pressure too quickly and the ball's coming out, someone's open. But when we're in man, doesn't happen. Doesn't happen as often anyway. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Khalif Raymond from last night, man? How electric was that stadium?
Oh my God, it was crazy. And I've never been to a Lions game.
Oh, hold on one second. Let me just answer something so I can move off this topic.
For sure.
Maddie B. I don't know if you've listened for the last 30 minutes or even 5 minutes, but I'll say it one more time. The Lions were the 5th best team in the league last night with pressure on quarterbacks. 16 pressures, 1 sack, 39% of dropbacks pressured. 5th best, actually tied for 4th in the league last night. We had 16. The number 1 team last night had 24 pressures. The number 2 team had 23. The number 3 team had 18. The Lions had 16. So we had pressures, plenty of pressures. So much so that we were 5th best in the league. All right, now go ahead. What do you think about Khalif Raymond last night?
Yeah, Khalif Raymond and the other kid there, Dorsey. Man, they were electric on run backs last night. Kick and punt returns. What an amazing evening. And I don't know if the Titans found a bunch of high school guys to play special teams or what, or if we're just that good. Because that was unlike anything I've ever seen, that many run backs. We just kept running it back 75 yards, 90 yards, all the way for a touchdown. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. And every time they kicked the ball, it just got to the point where you were thinking, man, Khalif's going to run this one back. Oh, he's going to run this one back. Oh, he's going to run this one back. And then I've never been to a Lions game where the Lions are in the lead and the clock gets to the fourth quarter starts, and all of a sudden you feel that cold rush of air from outside because half the stadium's leaving to beat traffic. That usually happens when the Lions are getting destroyed 41-0, that everybody leaves for the fourth quarter. I've never seen it where we're in the lead and the stadium empties out. There was no one left by the end of the fourth quarter. That stadium was empty. Like when I got up out of my seat to leave and walk up, I had no one in front of me. I didn't have to wait in line, nothing. It was the craziest emptying of the stadium I've ever seen.
And when did they start to leave?
Right at the fourth quarter. When the fourth quarter started, boom, you could see it. Every single aisle, everybody was leaving. At the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Pouncer, to answer your question there, buddy. Dorsey was picked up by the Lions, I think, end of 22 or 23 season. And he was originally brought in for DB help, return game help. Yeah, so he's been around with us for a couple of seasons.
Yep.
He was brought back this year. He was a free agent this year, I believe. So yeah, he's been around for a minute. Another question or statement in the chat. Let's see here. No, Matty B. Ridley was not only targeted with Tarian covering. I just can't answer any more of your questions, buddy, because it's not even close to being accurate. Carlton Davis was on Ridley, like entire first quarter, and got burned up.
Mm-hmm.
So Tarian took over. So I'm not sure if you would. I'm not sure if you're just mistyping or what, but I mean they're totally backwards statements.
And I'll tell you, in this game, it was really nice to see that they were letting the DBs play. They weren't calling pass interference and DBs defensive holding on every single play that hands were involved. It was really nice to see a crew where they actually let the DBs play.
Yeah, that's been nice to see the last couple of weeks, right? I mean, look, they're not getting overly handsy. And Brian Branch did get a couple of quick calls last night. And he has this same issue that I think Tarian, I mean, they all kind of play with that hook. When they're diving for a ball, they kind of hook with the opposite arm that they're trying to poke away with. The other arm is kind of coming around the backside. I don't feel like that's slowing down a receiver at all. I mean, yeah, you can just freely dive. I mean, I guess the way you teach it is when you dive, you put the hand in the pocket, Superman, put the hand in the pocket and dive for the ball. But what the DBs are doing is they're helping protect themselves and have an opportunity to tackle by having that arm curled. When they come down, they'll at least be able to bring the receiver down with them. And if they have caught the ball, at least be able to stop them. That's why they do it. You're trying to protect if the play gets made, and you're trying to also protect your break to the ground, so you're not just flying to the ground, without any break to your fall. So I get why they do it, but it gets you in trouble. And I think it's a very weak penalty. So the one on Brian Branch was not even a penalty at all. Like he wasn't even close to committing a penalty. His hands weren't even touching the receiver at all. And I don't remember if that was the first or the second one, but it was bad. It was really bad. Yeah. But thankfully the refs kind of let up on that.
Yeah, it seemed like the refs weren't all that much of an issue yesterday for either team.
No.
And I'll tell you, there was one play with Terrion Arnold. I don't remember what quarter it was in, but Terrion was kind of over towards the front corner of the end zone, just outside the end zone, and the ball got thrown to the wide receiver. He didn't catch it, but if Terrion would have just turned his head, Terrion would have had his first career interception. But he didn't turn around at all. He ended up breaking up the pass, which is fine. But if he would have just turned his head slightly, that ball would have went right into his hands. He would have had the easiest first interception ever. And I was really, really hoping to see Terrion get his first interception yesterday.
Yeah, it'd be nice, man, when he gets one. Kirby Joseph, though, 5 interceptions on the season. Let's take a look at some.
He's tied for the lead right now with Xavier. What's his face for the Packers?
Kinney.
Yeah.
All right, so your defensive leaders for the season so far are offensive leaders. Geno Smith, 2,197 yards. Jared Goff, yardage-wise, is 13th. But I think when you look at, rushing and who we are as a team, Jahmyr Gibbs has 591, and Demont has 415. I mean, so Gibbs is overtaking Montgomery right now. We are going to be approaching the halfway point of the season here pretty shortly, and both players are still in position to break 1,000 yards. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs will do it easily, and Montgomery just needs a bounce back game or two. I think that the Lambeau, I mean, if I were to do an early projection, I think that the Lambeau game is going to be a better Demont, a better Knuckles game, if you will, especially if it's going to be a little bit rainy and wet and cold. I think that fits Montgomery's style a little bit more. And Lambeau's field is usually trash. Like it is usually trash when it rains. It is a very difficult field to run on, and they always are slipping around on that field. Derrick Henry. So I made a misstatement the other day. I said that Derrick Henry hasn't really popped off yet. The dude's almost got 1,000 yards. On the season. I mean, he's just completely taken advantage of what the Ravens have. But again, if we have to see the Ravens in the playoffs, I'm not that worried. The way that our run defense has been playing, he probably won't even break 100.
So what did he do yesterday?
I don't know.
Because the Ravens lost to the Browns yesterday, and the Browns are trash.
They still have a good defense, though.
I suppose.
So for receiving on the year, obviously our team is kind of, I mean, yesterday's game really screwed everybody up. When you're not throwing the ball at all, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is now 25th in the league as far as receiving yards, but he's separated by about 268 yards between him and first place. That's a couple of games for him. That's a couple of games. Jameson Williams was 41st in the league. He's going to be out a couple of games, so he's going to need to have a bounce back kind of year. We're not having to win all of the statistical measurements this year. Like Jared Goff, for passing, for quarterback stats. I mean, look, this is more of a balanced, well-oiled, well-balanced machine. It's just operating at such a high level. And, a 74.1% completion percentage, that makes me super excited for when this offense really needs to go on the offense and start to take a game over. We have the players to do it. We have yet to see our best game. We have yet to see where everything comes together perfectly. So back to the original point that I think Peter was making earlier in the show, have the Lions peaked too early? I don't even think we're close.
Not even close.
I really don't think we're close because we have yet to play a perfect set of all three phases. If we did, I would say the Cowboys game was probably the closest that we would have to a perfect, all three phases working. But even then, that's just one game, and there's still much more to improve on. Defensive leaders. That's where I wanted to go to. Where was it? Sacks. Obviously, we know we're nowhere near anywhere in sacks. Interceptions. Kirby Joseph has 5. Xavier McKinney has 6. Brian Branch has 4. But your Detroit Lions have 2 of the top 5, safeties in the league for interceptions. Between Kirby and Brian Branch, you're looking at 9 interceptions. They are the second and the third leading, leaders in that room. Fumbles. They have
for the leader from the Packers. He's had one more game than we've had also.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
So McKinney for the Packers, he has 6, correct?
Yeah. He's had one more game played.
Yep, and he's had one more game. So if Kirby gets one in this next game, he's tied with him.
Yeah, of course. And look, I expect it'll probably be thrown. These guys just have a knack for finding the football, and look, there's a lot of worry for Detroit Lions fans early, like, I don't know, first, second game of the year. Actually, it's probably second, third game of the year. There's a lot of worry about Jared Goff. There's a lot of worry about the DBs not getting interceptions. And there was two things that I said very early in the season. Number one, about Jared Goff, I said he's like a fine wine, right? He will age throughout the season, and his play will get better throughout the season. Just like when a fine wine sits, it ages well, it tastes better. And same thing with Jared Goff. He is now almost halfway into the season, and you're just seeing the steady incline of him getting better and better and better as the weeks go on. He's only thrown, 4 interceptions the whole season?
Yep.
Last year at this time, I think he already threw 8 or 9. So it's a huge difference. And his completion percentage is the best he's ever had in his career. So I am totally comfortable with where this team is headed, especially behind Jared Goff. But sometimes you just got to let things kind of progress a little bit. Trust in the process. Jared will be fine. I mean, he didn't get a preseason. Got to let the guys gel, just like we're talking about with the defense. So flipping it on the defensive side of the ball, everyone, everyone was worried about interceptions. We just weren't getting the interceptions. And the statement that I made back then was, it's going to come. It just takes time. You got to let these guys figure each other out. And once they feel comfortable with where, the players, where they're supposed to be in their assignments, you're going to see him play a little bit more free. Kirby's like a sniper, man. He gets so low and he tries to manipulate the vision of the quarterback. That is why he is so good at getting the football. He goes in and attacks the quarterback's vision and tries to stay hidden, put himself between the receiver and the quarterback, and then he just scoops right in front of him and takes the ball away. Brian Branch, he's just a stud. I mean, you talk about an arsenal or a plethora of skill that this guy has. I mean, he's an aerial acrobat. He's diving for every interception. He's running and making a play and diving for these interceptions. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. I put out that picture, last week after the Monday game where, it's identical pictures of Brian Branch, with an interception. And I love it, man. I want to get a whole wall of just Brian Branch's interceptions. And they all look identical. Almost all of them. Just a different jersey and a different opponent. So it's fun to watch these guys grow. So I guess back to what I'm saying, the two things that, I was not worried about was the way that the team would progress. They're progressing just fine. All right, final news for the day. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, just what an electric, awesome atmosphere at Ford Field coming into the game. It felt like we were going to dominate, felt like we were going to win an easy one. And that's the sentiment of a lot of the crowd yesterday was that this was going to be an easy game. I only saw 2 Titan fans in the entire stadium. I walked around the concourse on both the first and second floors, just saying hi to everybody. And only saw a total of 2 Titans fans. I expect the same when we play the Jaguars in a couple weeks. Well,
I know I had 2 of them there.
Yeah. So, I just didn't see too many Titans fans. And the Titans fans that were there were really cool. The 2 I did see, ran into, and talked to for a minute. And listen, they were super cool at our stadium. And I think everybody treated them nice at the stadium, which was nice to see.
Yeah, people call us terrible fans. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Crazy. So updates here on Jordan Love. Jordan Love, Green Bay Packers, is dealing with a groin injury ahead of the Detroit Lions game. According to LaFleur last night, he says, I do not know, no idea, when he was asked about the injury to Jordan Love. But obviously, a high level of concern anytime a guy's in there, and he did it early in that first drive. I think everybody could see him struggling to move around. It just got to a point where we didn't feel like and he didn't feel like he could protect himself. Smart move taking him out.
Yep.
Groin is not easy, right? I mean, those take time, just like a hamstring. I guess at this point, what we are understanding is he is day to day, but there's going to be more information that's going to come out on Wednesday ahead of the first practice report and see how he progresses. But right now he's day to day, has not been ruled out for the game. But look, I'm expecting if he can't protect himself, they're not going to put him in. And that's where, on Wednesday, when we get into talking about the Green Bay Packer game, I think that we're going to have an easier opportunity up against Malik Willis. I understand he's been running on teams. He's not going to run on the Lions. He's just not. He's a big boy. He's a big quarterback. He's going to be tough to take down, but I think the Lions will be ready for him. And he can pass the ball. I think that, the Packers made an extremely smart move, couple of smart moves this year. Bringing in Robert Saleh. I mean, that is like what I called a checkmate kind of move when you're looking to really amplify your vision of your team and you're trying to dissect the things that you don't do well and how you can do it better. That's the kind of moves you make. It's not that he's going to stay there with the team forever. He might, for the rest of the season, in a consulting type of position, but I don't think that he's going to sign long-term. He's going to be looking for another head coaching position probably next season. And I guess the other thing, to be said here would be, can Malik take advantage, the fact that we don't have, a powerful defensive end? I don't think so. I think that our linebackers are going to play, well into that position, and that may be the deciding game. Last thing I'll leave you with, about defensive ends for this week is if we don't have somebody in the building today, they're not playing on Sunday. They're just not. There's no way. I mean, you could put them in for some super scaled back vanilla scheme, just rush the quarterback. That's your only job. Just get after the quarterback. You could do that. But outside of that, if you don't understand or know the scheme and haven't been in the building for a couple of weeks, I wouldn't be expecting a whole lot out of whoever we bring in if the Lions do bring anybody in. The biggest question that I would ask you is whoever keeps saying that Brad Holmes has been on the phone with these two GMs or been on the phone with these two players, and every week you hear that, you see the clickbait every week. Why do people fall for that stuff? That's my only question. When a channel has never gotten anything right ever, or when an analyst on ESPN or anywhere is never getting anything right ever, at some point you just got to tune them out, right? Listen to what the truth is. And I know it's hard in this space. It's hard, in journalism or media or whatever you want to call it, but I'm just sick of seeing the clickbait. I'm sick of seeing all these Lions fans, going off the deep end, with all these players that we need. And it's because people are pushing false information. And I can't stand it. Let's just talk about what's real. If you are not in the room with Brad Holmes, you do not know what's going on. And I know of nobody in the room with Brad Holmes other than Dan Campbell and whoever works inside of Allen Park. There is no beat writer. There is no journalist. There's nobody that is in these rooms. That information is not shared with anyone. Brad Holmes doesn't come out of his office and say, hey, so-and-so, yeah, I just got off the phone with the Titans, or hey, I just got off the phone with Green Bay. No, it doesn't work that way. These are highly private conversations. No details are ever discussed. That's why you've never seen me put out a video that says Brad Holmes just got off the phone with somebody. Ever. And I'm never going to, because that would be a complete lie. So pay attention to the people that put out the good news, the wholesome news. You can trust, a lot of your insiders that cover the Detroit Lions. They put out some pretty good stuff, and you don't see them putting out that crap either. And there's a reason for it. But I think that's why, you get a lot of Lions fans that are kind of arguing with each other about, who we need and what's best for the team. And it's because you've got people just getting the pot stirred for no reason. Quit stirring the pot. It's not SOL anymore, man. All right. That's it, right? You're all done. No more topics for you today.
No, that's good. You know, even I got caught up in the whole we're gonna get an edge thing yesterday, you know, and I was at the stadium and people are like, "Oh, we got this guy, we got this guy," and you know,
Oh
I
yeah,
even mentioned it.
your little thing, that was no big deal, man.
Yeah, but like,
It's false
you
news
know,
coming across your phone again, as usual.
yep, as usual, you know, and it wasn't just on my phone; it was like on everybody's phone in the stadium, and
Yeah, and what I
it,
read is it was something about Mike Payton said that we just brought somebody in, but I didn't find one thing
yeah,
with Mike Payton.
yeah, and we'll see. You know, maybe something happens today with it, but I doubt it. I highly doubt it now. You know, and the first thing I should have thought is nothing's going to happen on a Sunday. You know, during a game. That's the first thought that should have went through my brain, but I didn't. I got caught up in the hype, and I apologize for that.
Oh, you're good. So Mike P, let me clarify. Apparently you missed it. Dan Campbell saying that Brad Holmes has looked at things and brought things to his attention or is on the phones. That's different than saying this person has spoke to this team about this player or these two players. That has never come out of Dan Campbell's mouth. Very different circumstance there. I'm on the phone all day. Doesn't mean I'm talking to somebody important. Right? So you got to think about it that way. He never once came out and said that he was talking to a very specific player or general manager ever throughout this process. And they never would. That's the difference. So that's it for today. What's that, buddy?
There's only 8 more days and all this, you know, trade eligibility, free agent period, whatever you want to call it. I'm glad it's over next Tuesday and done with, and we can get past it and just talk about football and no more friggin' trade crap.
Yeah, but it'll still happen because you still have practice squad stuff, right? You're still going to have the talk and
that's much more realistic.
Yeah. I think there's just a difference between, you know, people that do this for an income and people that do it just to deliver news for the fans like I do. This is not income for me. Yeah. You know, this is for a cancer foundation. That's what it's turned into. So I have a vested interest on trying to keep things, you know, whole, right? And not off into left field. We'll have our fun at times, but I think people have learned, you know, to know me by now that I try to deliver the truth and try to be honest about everything that I do and try to find the right source. If I can't find a source on it, I'm not going to try to report it. But if I do report something, I'm going to make damn sure that I state very clearly that it's a speculated rumor, which I think I do a pretty good job at. So we try to keep it whole here. All right. You guys have been great. I hate to finish a show like that. I don't even know why I went to that direction, but this stuff irks me because it gets fans all stirred up. You know what I mean?
So let's finish it on something fun. You ready for this?
All right, let's do it. What you got?
All right. So I got one of the Calvin Johnson bobbleheads at the game yesterday. Right on, right? We should have got him on the Monday night game.
Yeah, we should have.
And I got to sit in the end zone and get me one of these for once.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I got a whole stack of those things.
I got a whole stack of them, yeah.
Yeah. I usually collect them all after the game, and I would keep a couple of them. I got a box full of them somewhere. I love being able to sit in that third down zone, but a couple of games that I've been at, they did the whole first or the bottom row, the bottom section. They did the whole building all the way around.
Yeah.
Which they don't do very often. They'll do it like on a Monday night game every once in a while.
I think they should do it for every seat in the whole darn stadium should get one of these, not just the end zones. Everybody should get one.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. You know how much those things cost to print?
Yeah, so Ford Field, yeah, but you know how much money we're paying for tickets?
Yeah, I think it probably costs $30,000 to print those things.
Yeah, but for 30 cents they can print, you know, this off for me. I think my ticket price more than qualifies for that.
Yeah, you would hope, right?
Yeah,
you would hope. Well, we're finished with Harpazzo wants to know about TA. Yes, he's been playing great. I'm super excited about Terry and Arnold and his growth, man. He's well on his way. He's going to be fun to watch. He just needs to stay healthy like the rest of them. Just keep on growing, man. His feet are planted firm on the ground now that he walks on, and his roots are starting to get established. It's going to be fun when Tyrion finally just blossoms, man, and it all comes together. Watch out. Like this, again, back to peaking. The Lions aren't even close. Defensively, they're still not even close. They're just scratching the surface of what they can do. All right, I'm out of here. Eric, we'll see you tomorrow. You'll be back in studio tomorrow?
Yep, I'll be home.
All right, we'll have a better show for you guys tomorrow. We'll have PFF grades. I'm going to start working on right away, getting a Green Bay podcast up for the week. And if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. Otherwise, mailbag at rockdown.com. If you want to join the show, if you want to be part of the show, if you want to be a writer, an analyst, anything, just reach out. Mailbag at rockdown.com. We'll get you up on a call this week and see what we can do about get you going. We got plenty more channels to start for a lot more teams. And if you know people that support other teams that want to run a channel, let me know. We'll get you going. All right, you guys take care. Go on Pride. Go Detroit Lions. Have a good day.
Ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the hall of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, where the roar meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the hall of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Feeling the passion igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together